An alarming number of young people say they've ridden in a car with an impaired driver. A new study shows 1 in 3 recent high school grads admits being a passenger in a car in the past year with a driver who'd been drinking or taking drugs. 20% of them rode with an alcohol-impaired driver, and 23% rode with a driver who'd used marijuana. Our Dr. Jon LaPook has reported on the challenges of determining if a driver is high on pot. The question so many people have, John. Yeah. Good morning to see you. So this study looked at the transportation habits of kids who were out of school a year or two.
Right.
What did it find?
Well, it's frightening, these numbers, right? I mean, it turns out that they're 19 and 20 years old, and a third of them are driving in a car with somebody who's impaired. And what's especially worrisome is that that is a predictor for themselves in the future driving while impaired.
And they do it knowingly, right? Because they bow to peer pressure.
Yeah, it's tough to say no, right? When everybody says, "Come on, what's the matter? What are you afraid?"
What do we know, John, about the impairment drinking versus marijuana?
Well, marijuana now, a lot of study has been done about this. So it turns out, and there's a driving simulator out in Iowa that I actually visited for my piece for 60 Minutes about 18 months ago. There's more weaving, there's decreased reaction time, your judgment is impaired, and you actually may drive slower than normally. I spoke to one of the sheriffs, and he said that he pulled somebody over for suspected driving while stoned, and the guy said, "How fast was I going?" And the sheriff said 10 miles an hour. Yep. That can be very dangerous.
Because they don't even know they're impaired. Isn't that part of the problem?
Well,
too?
I think with marijuana, with cannabis, they suspect it more. Alcohol is more, they drive faster. Marijuana, cannabis,
you can smell it once you pull someone over.
Well, here is the problem, right? So there are all these states that are legalizing it. 2/3 of Americans think that recreational marijuana should be legal.
Legalized.
And so, this is going on there. It's a national movement. So if you're going to do that, you want to do it responsibly. And one of the problems is if a cop suspects that somebody is driving while stoned, pulls them over, get out of the car, there's no equivalent of the breathalyzer test that there is for alcohol, right? They're developing it. There's some places that are trying, but it's not yet widely available. So they have to look at things like your pulse, your blood pressure goes up, your pupils may be dilated, wider than normally, and then, finger, nose, things like that. But the problem is that it gets out of your bloodstream very quickly. So by the time they get to the police station to get a blood test, it may be significantly lower.
Growing acceptance at home doesn't mean growing acceptance on the road. What do we do to bring these numbers down?
I think education, I think parents, you have to say to your kid, my mother and father said, look, if it's 3 in the morning and, you're drunk, call us. We'll never yell at you for doing that. I think you have to make it sort of a peer pressure thing that says, I love you so much as a friend, I'm not going to let you drive while impaired or be in a car while with somebody who's impaired. And then, of course, these days there are these car riding services. It's a lot easier.
Well, those are key. I mean, we talk about on one segment the person being killed by a driverless car, right? But at the same time, what benefit do Uber, car services, taxis in major metropolitan areas have in addressing this? Yeah,
I think it can be a huge benefit, but I think the big thing is a cultural shift at a time when more and more people are thinking that, cannabis is safe. That's the general feeling, and there needs to be some education. Governor Hickenlooper, who was in Colorado, it's been legal there for about 5 years, and I spoke to him about this problem there, and he said, look, there have to be guardrails. You have to have education. If you're going to do it, let's do it in a safe way. And his big thing that he was saying to states that haven't yet legalized is go out and get the information, the data now about who's driving while impaired, what percentage of accidents happen with people who have cannabis in their system, because then if it gets legalized, you can compare before and after. Their problem in Colorado is they have these statistics, but it's going up a little bit, but is it because they're looking more carefully? The studies have been very conflicting about whether this has all changed the number of accidents that are happening.
And all of us have something we can talk about again at the dinner table tonight with the kids.
Yes, talk to your kids.
Thanks,
Very
John.
important.